King Tut. Right.
Hello, everybody. This is King Tut here, and welcome to your 20th C++ tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to get into the fun stuff. And I'm not saying the previous tutorials are boring stuff. These are really important because in this tutorial, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of C++, which is object-oriented programming. And it's going to have, I don't know how many video series of object-oriented programming, but um, let me give you a definition of object-oriented programming. So, object-oriented programming is a programming paradigm or a design pattern where the programmer gets to define their own data types. So, what I mean by data types, if you watched um, the second or third C++ tutorial, which is data. It's one of my C++ data tutorial, which I explain what data is and you can store into variables. And the variables are based off of data types that C++ itself integrated into. And I give you the most example, the examples that I usually use. So I I usually int, double, char, a string, long, float. These are the ones that I usually use. In object-oriented programming, you get to make your own functionalities, variables, and you get to define your own variable based off of that functionality and that definition that you give it. And I know you might be confused. What do you mean? What definition? Which definition do you give? Do you give it to a function? Not really. There's a thing called class, which in this tutorial I'll show you how to implement class in C++. So when you're making class, it's literally a collection of functions and variables, and you get to call up a class by defining your own data type, which is that object, which your own variable that that variable that contains all that same functionality. Not to confuse you a lot, I'm just gonna get right into it and show you what I mean. So if you want to implement class, you type in class and you type in the name that you want to give it to the class. Let's just put class t, and then you put the opening curly brace, press enter, and then it automatically generating your closed curly brace and a semicolon, which it's a must for when you're making a class. We're not out of the woods yet. You need to put in what access pointers, which is public and private. So public in class is it means that other class can make use of this base class over here. So if I have a bunch of classes that want to make use of tut, I would use what is called inheritance, which is going to be in the next tutorial. And inheritance is really useful. So public is all the functions and variables that can be used by other classes. So public, and then private is functions and variables that cannot be used by other classes. Usually it's variables because for error, when you pinpoint errors, if you put all your variables public, you won't be able to pinpoint the errors that you got on your console. Also, you won't even pinpoint the bugs that you get, which I'm not sure if I told you before. Bugs are the program is running successfully, but um, like what I mean running successfully is there's no errors, there's no syntax errors, so on and so forth. But your program didn't really run as you expected, so that's bugs. So let's put private. So if you want to put public and private, you put public with a semicolon, with a not semicolon, a colon, and private with colon. And then before we define other functions, you have to put a constructor and a destructor. So a constructor is when you're initializing a variable, if you want to call in a class, you need a constructor, or else this class will not be called. So you put the name of the class, and then you put semicolon for constructor. And if you want to put a destructor, you press shift, and then below the escape, you press that button, and it's a tilde sign, and it's below that escape. And then you put the name of the class, and then you put a semicolon on it. A destructor is after all the program is closed, this runs. So I'm going to show you the constructor and a destructor. So if you want to define a function inside the class right away, you could do like this. You could just put an opening and closing brace, just like that. And the same thing for destructor, and the same thing for other functions. If you want to put it outside of class, you put you put the class name that you put, and then you press colon, and then you put the constructor or the function, and then you put the parentheses, opening and closing braces. This is for the constructor. The destructor is the same, except you put a tilde on it. And it's going to give me errors because you didn't put the constructor. You have to put a constructor before you put a destructor. All right, so let's copy this. So Control C for copy and Control V for paste. And then you put a tilde sign. And then it's giving you syntax errors. So what's going on with it? Should it be colon, semicolon? Well, what's the syntax errors? Oh, okay. So it's a warning. Warnings, you don't have to worry about it. It's just giving you advice. It's just giving you things that you have to that they're warning you about. It's not an error, which is good, and it's not going to be harmful to the program itself. All right, so if you want to, let's say, void print something, let's say if you have this function and you wanted to define it inside the class, you do the same thing, just opening and close curly brace. If you want to put it outside the class, if you want to define it outside the class, put void and then two colons, and then usually in Cevelop it gives you this this autocomplete. So it's just, if you want to use your mouse, just double click it and it automatically gives you this function. So let me just go over it again. You put void or whatever data type you put the class, the class name, 2:, and then the function that you have declared inside the class. And then you put the opening and closing braces. So let's just put cout stuff. Yeah, just like I said, very vague, but just trying to show you something. We're not going to put anything in private because we don't have any variable to put into, but I'll get there later. If you wanted to call the class, you put in the class name, and then you put the name of the class variable. So let's say you put this. So that's where the object-oriented go into place. So you get to define, you made a class, and if you want to call in a class, this becomes a data type, which is cool. It's really, really cool. So once this becomes a data type, once you declare a object, you could use and abuse it. So if you want to have this object here, use the function print something. You put t, and then you put a dot, and then print something. And so I'm gonna press enter, and then you put a semicolon. So to make use of a function inside a class, you put the object name that you've declared, and then you press the dot, you put that period sign on it, and then depending on your IDE, in Cevelop, it gives you autocomplete. It lists you different kinds of functions or variables, and I pick the variable that you want to make use of, and then you press enter. And I decide to have this object use the print something function. So when I run this program, it's going to print out stuff. So let's run it. Okay, so proceed. Whoops. No, that's from my last tutorial. That's my bad. Cancel. Alright, so what's going on? Invalid use of Destructor as a type. Oh, yeah, this is what happened. You put the tilde sign after the 2:. That's my bad. Okay, hopefully this works. As you see, it just compiled right away because I saved it first. So it print out stuff as we have expected. It made use of the print something and it print out stuff. So let's use and abuse the constructor and destructor. Sorry, there's some stuff outside. I don't know. I think someone is lawn mowing or using a motorcycle. All right. So let's make use of the constructor and let's make use of the destructor. Let's try it out. So let's take out t dot print something. Let's take that out, and let's just print out I am a constructor. I'm not sure that's spelled right, but hey. And then let's put cout I am a destructor. Actually, let's comment this out. And if you haven't, if you don't know how to comment, it's 2 forward slashes. Okay, let's run this program, and hopefully it could print. Yep, it print out the constructor. And the reason for this is when you declare an object type, a class variable, it invokes the constructor. So let's comment this out and use the Destructor. And let's run this program. There's no difference, as you might see, but it's after everything has been run, the Destructor is being invoked, and it prints out I am a Destructor. And if you don't believe me, I'll print out some ridiculous stuff, just ridiculous stuff, and prove it to you. Prove that this gets printed out at the end. Boom. So it prints out this ridiculous thing that I typed. And after everything is done, the Destructor is being invoked. The Destructor works and prints out I am a Destructor. Hope this helps. Thank you so much for watching. If you really like my video, please give it a big thumbs up. If you're on YouTube, BitChute, or BitTube, please subscribe to my channel. If you're on Vlare, please follow my channel. If you're on Library, please follow my channel and download my video. And I hope to see you in the next tutorial. Bye!